Okay, let's get started. So we respect everybody's time. Thank you for joining, or if you are watching the replay. Today, we're going to talk about an important topic, long-term care. Can be heavy. We'll try to make it not so heavy, but we will share what it is, what it means, if I need it, and if I do, how do I plan and pay for it? So on our agenda, we'll start with introduction, so you will get to know our speakers. We will talk about definitions and statistics, some common long-term care myths, talk about how do we plan and pay for long-term care, share some interesting case studies, and then refer to what your plan, potentially giving you some food for thought, and then take some Q&A at the end. So my name is Catherine Valega. I am a certified financial planner and enrolled agent. I started my career on Wall Street, and when I started, there was 25% women. There are still 25% women. So I pride myself in being the anti-jargon, anti-mansplaining advisor. I have 4 young adult daughters, and in my time outside the office, I love being outdoorsy and competitive. And as you get older, it's easier to win races. So this was a recent race, Squam Ridge Trail Run. Here we go.
And I'm attorney Wendy Guthro. I'm an estate planning and estate administration, probate, and an elder law attorney. My physical office is located out of Burlington, Massachusetts, but I do much of my work virtually. I'm a licensed practitioner in both Massachusetts and New Hampshire, so I can give legal advice and direction for residents of those 2 states alone. And like Catherine, I pride myself in really speaking plain English, no legalese, trying to get my clients to understand complex topics in a very simple, grounded, down-to-earth manner that they can then take that information and apply it to themselves. And also people tell me I'm a great listener, like knowing these 2 other presenters, they are as well. So it's how we really do figure out how to help our clients in the best manner. So I'm happy to participate today. Thank you.
Awesome.
Hello, I'm Dina Mabry, and I am a licensed insurance agent for life and long-term care insurance, and we provide support to financial advisors and estate planning attorneys nationally. We have all of the carriers, and we love to just shop the market. I own a family business with my sister as a broker, and I have 3 grown children, one in New York, one in San Francisco, and one in Los Angeles. So we're here to talk about great things about growing old and protecting families.
There we go. So on the agenda, we got through the introductions. Now we're going to jump into some definition and statistics of what is long-term care. So what exactly does needing long-term care mean? So in the world of long-term care, we talk about 6 ADLs, or activities of daily living. When you need help with at least 2 out of 6 of these, that it means you're in the phase of needing your long-term care. So washing, dressing, feeding, toileting, transferring, moving from a bed to a chair, for example, and then moving, actually physically, walking and getting yourself around. Where does long-term care typically take place? So in home, aging in place. I know that's, one of my goals is to stay home as long as possible. Sometimes clients need some adult daycare facilities, assisted living facilities, nursing homes, and then also memory care facilities. So we are getting old. Ugh, I hate talking about this, but there is an expression that we say in my industry called peak 65, meaning that more than 11,000 Americans are turning 65 every day from 2024 through 2027. So we are in this phase. We are all getting old, and we really need to think about how we're going to plan for our own long-term financial success, and then how we're going to plan for our health and the health and well-being of our families. Who needs long-term care? The majority of men are going to need long-term care, and even more women, almost 80% of women age 65 and older are going to need long-term care at some point. Sometimes we say in traditional marriages, the female is taking care of the male a little bit prior, but eventually most women are going to need some sort of long-term care support at some point in our lives. How much does long-term care cost? So I love this study, Genworth. You can just Google Genworth cost of care study, and you can plug in your particular area of the country. Now, I chose both coasts because we're in high cost areas. You can also choose current pricing and then inflating it, so a couple decades down the road. And what I like to show here, for example, in Boston, right now, if you needed a private room in a nursing home facility, you were looking at over $15,000 a month. Fast forward 20 years, we're close to 30. Not quite as expensive in LA, but still pretty expensive. And I'm guessing Dina would probably say it's probably more expensive than that. So anyway, it does cost a lot to provide the care that we need. So let's jump to some common long-term care myths. Dina.
So one of the big myths is it won't happen to me, and that's just plain denial. What we do find is that the disease that used to kill us, people are living with. People are living with disease and people need care. So let's not be in denial. As the other slide said, it'll happen to you. If you make it to 65, you have more than a 70% chance of needing care. And then the second myth is that's what my savings are for. It is really difficult to save for something you don't know how much it's going to cost, when you'll need it, and for how long. So when we talk about long-term care planning, we talk about diversifying and possibly looking at policies to give you tax-free money for your care. The third myth is Medicare and Medicaid have me covered. And that's just wrong. Medicare will pay for you, but they will pay for you following a hospital stay, 100 days post-hospital stay in a skilled nursing facility. And then that's it. You're on your own. And then Medicaid, of course, that means you need to spend all of your money in order to be covered. And then my family will take care of me. Family does not want to take care of you, but they will. And family taking care of loved ones is very stressful and very hard. There's a study that talks about the anxiety and the depression for the caregiver, especially when caring for a loved one. So it's a gift to be able to plan ahead and not rely on your family.
And Dina, I just want to add one thing here. I know one of the phrases that I use when I talk about long-term care is by having some support, whether it's long-term care insurance or having self-insured. I want my children to be in the position of care supervising versus caregiving. I know you talk about that a lot too.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, so how do we plan and pay for long-term care? Wendy. Oh, Wendy, hang on, we can't hear you.
Thank you. Part of the planning for long-term care is that you want to have certain legal documents in place. But before you can even think about getting those legal documents, you have to have the capacity, legal capacity, to actually draft and sign specific legal documents. So I bring this up at the very beginning when we're talking about how to plan for long-term care is because you need to plan for it while you have capacity, normally right now. Right? So you must have legal capacity to execute estate planning documents. So it is essential that you have estate planning done while you have capacity so that you're fully aware and that you understand the implications of the decisions you're going to be making, as well as the people that you are selecting, referred to as your fiduciaries, to make not only medical decisions for you, but financial decisions for you, for when you cannot make them for yourself. Now, on a financial document, you can choose to have a power of attorney, say, be active while you have capacity, as well as when you don't have capacity. But that's one of the few documents that transcends that meridian, that it can be used not only for incapacity, but during capacity if you so choose. So this slide is really geared to get you thinking now while you have capacity to put documents in place. And that will help you avoid having to go to the court or use the probate court system in Massachusetts to avoid getting a conservator or a guardian in place. So these are the essential legal documents that I want all of my clients to have in place and drafted while they have capacity. The first is a last will and testament. Most people are aware of that. It's a document that distributes your assets upon your passing. It doesn't come into fruition until you pass away. The next is a revocable living trust. So a revocable living trust, it's not used for any type of Medicaid planning or asset protection planning. This is to avoid probate on your assets. And it's very helpful for you to name a fiduciary on that document that's going to be in charge of all of the assets that you would then put into your revocable living trust. There is another type of trust called an irrevocable trust, and we use that for Medicaid asset protection planning. But when you do some long-term care planning and use an insurance product, it will far surpass having to do that type of advanced planning and divest yourself of assets 5 years in advance of you needing a nursing home, which really puts you into the crystal ball area of figuring out when is that 5-year look back period supposed to start. So that's why I keep my focus on the essential legal documents for long-term care planning is to have a revocable living trust that can manage those assets after you become incapacitated. And then the durable power of attorney for finances. I alluded to that briefly before, that is a document where you are going to name a fiduciary, referred to as your attorney in fact, that's going to make financial decisions for you when you are not capable of making them for yourself. And that is the document I referenced that could also be drafted in a way that you can have that agent or that attorney, in fact, also make decisions for you while you have capacity for convenience. And then the essential legal documents is rounded up with section 4 here, which is healthcare documents. We have 3 specific documents that we would like you to have. The first is your healthcare proxy for someone to make medical decisions for you. That is only invoked, though, when you cannot make medical decisions for yourself. The second is an advance directive, also called a living will, and that is when you are speaking for yourself of what you would like your end of life care to look like. This document doesn't normally kick in until you are at end of life and death is imminent, and that you have expressed whether or not you want to be kept alive on life support. And if you have expressed that you do want to be kept alive on life support, you can indicate how long you want to give it, 1 week, 1 month, 5 months, whatever the case may be. So there's a lot of ability to put that language into an advance directive. And the last document is a HIPAA. And a HIPAA is who can have access to your protected healthcare information. Most of the time it's used in a hospital environment when someone is in a hospital and a family member or a friend is calling the hospital and wants to find out how you're doing. So if you put certain people on your HIPAA and you have your HIPAA recorded at your hospital, then anyone that you have mentioned on that HIPAA will then have access to know what your current state is from a medical perspective, as well as they do have the right to speak to your medical staff to get an analysis of what your current situation is. So in summary, you need to have capacity first to draft legal documents, and then if you have capacity, then these are the documents that we would recommend that you have in place to deal with your long-term care.
Excellent. And I would also add, I will always refer to an attorney. I am not a fan of people doing this on their own using the technology that's out there. So work with a local attorney. And if you haven't redone your estate plan for several years or you've moved, then consult an attorney additionally to review. So let's talk about how we pay for long-term care insurance, right? So I'm working with the numbers with my couples and my clients. So one option is just to self-insure. I rarely ever recommend this option because we saw already the large potential looming expense. And to self-insure means we just have this whole chunk of money that we're not going to need to enjoy our life or gift to children or philanthropies, et cetera. Does give us flexibility, but in reality, it's the default option for those who don't plan. So I want to go through this example here. And this is just a very simple example, but I think visuals say it all. So we are assuming a couple has $1 million, they've saved $1 million at age 65. They're going to get an annual return of 5%, and they're going to take withdrawals of $50,000 a year. Okay, so if neither member of the couple needs long-term care, all right, maybe that can last them until their 90s. However, let's say we have a health event. There's a stroke, there's some other type of health event, a cancer that arrives, and we have one spouse that needs 5 years of long-term care, which is going to require additional withdrawals from our portfolio of another $50,000. You can see that our portfolio has the potential of being depleted much earlier. So I think seeing this visually of the potential downside of self-insuring is helpful and hopefully gets people to think a little bit more seriously about one of these other options. So another option is what we call pure long-term care insurance. This used to be more readily available 10 years ago. There's still maybe a few carriers that are offering this, but this is really, use it or lose it. You're protecting your assets. You have a great tax-free benefits. You are preserving your independence, dignity, standard of living. Downside is if you don't actually use the long-term care insurance piece of it, there's no further benefit to your heirs. What we're using more of these days is something we call hybrid. So a hybrid policy is going to combine both a life insurance policy with a long-term care policy. So we're going to have some of both. It is eliminating completely this use it or lose it, because our family is going to receive either the benefits for the long-term care or the benefits of life insurance, and sometimes both. You're also typically avoiding premium increases the way we are structuring these policies. So that's a nice part also of hybrid long-term care insurance. So now we're going to have Dina jump into some case study so you can really get a feel for the, I'd say everyone is worthy of a case study. We always take all of our clients and decide, what might make sense for them, but this might make it a little bit more real for you.
Thank you. So we love shopping the market, and that's what's great about working with financial advisors that can look at every option that's available. So when we look at a single woman, maybe age 45, she wants to maintain her independence and she wants to travel, and she doesn't want to be a burden on anyone, let alone her family. And what we do with her is we look at these hybrid policies where she can pay them up in, let's say, 10 years. So if she's 45, she can pay premiums for 10 years. And by 55, her policy is all paid up. But the benefits continue to grow. So I'm working with a woman now who's doing a hybrid, and she's going to pay a monthly premium for 10 years, watch her policy grow. And when she's 85, she's going to nearly have $1 million in that policy that's totally tax-free that she can use for her care. And again, if she doesn't need care and she just dies peacefully in her sleep at age 100, the premium will be returned in the form of life insurance to her beneficiary. So that gives her peace of mind. She loves the diversification. She likes to be able to have money for traveling, spending, living, retirement, but then she knows she has a big bucket for long-term care.
Dina, one quick addition here. Can you talk about, I think it's really important. I work a lot with single women, and a large piece of the long-term care process is access to this concierge care, right? So, I believe that my clients have worked hard their whole life and they deserve to have the best care available to them. And talk a little bit about how the concierge care piece of long-term care helps clients access better care.
It's fantastic because if you have a policy, you already have registered online with the carrier. So they have resources in the area. So if you need home care or want to look at a facility or even adult daycare, you have a concierge care coordinator at the carrier that will help you with your benefits when you need care. Versus if you don't have a policy, you're pretty much just Googling, care in your area. And then you're calling Catherine to send money, liquidate assets, and then you're having to pay capital gains. And there's a lot of different moving parts. So to have a diversification of having a policy really does give you peace of mind, tax-free money, and that concierge care when needed.
For sure. Thank you.
So then married couples, a lot of married couples are now thinking about doing long-term care earlier. Back when I started in insurance in 2007, we didn't start talking about long-term care until late 60s, even 70s. But now we're trying to go earlier because then we can pay these policies up. So this married couple is 55, and let's say we did a premium pay for 10 years. Now we're going to pay up this policy and they'll only be 65 years old, ready to retire. What they're concerned with is protecting their portfolio. They've worked really hard to accumulate assets, and they don't want someone to get sick, hopefully one or both get sick. And let's say it's an Alzheimer's diagnosis or Parkinson's, where someone's going to need extended care, 8 to 10 years on average for an Alzheimer's diagnosis for care. And watching those hard-earned assets just deplete very, very quickly. So this is peace of mind. It's also protecting the portfolio. And now the portfolio can be life insurance that they could pass on to their family or their children.
Absolutely. And by protecting the portfolio, that also gives us more assets to enjoy our life and have some fun.
That's the key. And I don't want to say that you can't get long-term care in your 70s, because you can. We have some really good options. I'm actually working with a 74-year-old woman right now, and she's in perfect health. And she's taking off a little bit of her portfolio, and she's going to reposition it and put it in a long-term care annuity. She's going to have long-term care benefits later on. So the same thing would definitely apply for a 70-year-old married couple, that they are saying, we don't want to be a burden to our children. Yes, we might have waited a little bit longer than the 55-year-old couple, but we can still get long-term care as long as we can get approved. So I guess the takeaway here is younger and healthier gives you more time to be able to have the policy grow, which will then give you a bigger bucket for long-term care later on.
Absolutely. And I would also add that, my hope with this event today is to just let people know that it is something that we should be thinking about and planning for, but you don't have to have all the answers. I mean, that's why you work with advisors is when I work with my clients, we look at their income paying ability for premiums, their age, their health, and then Dina and I are going to shop all the carriers that are out there to find the best carrier for you. I like working with clients younger, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what age you are. Certainly have the conversation, and we will see what is out there, what is available. And also health. I'm working with a case right now with somebody who had cancer, and we are finding the right type of policy that will still give her some amount of benefits for long-term care. So you don't have to have all the answers. And I'd say it's always worth having the conversation for coverage. So I will send this document to everybody who is who's on or gets the replay. It's really just a cheat sheet, hopefully, to get you thinking about what does your future look like, right? A lot of us have been in, or we are in, the sandwich generation, where we're caring ourselves for parents, as well as, helping our kids, raising our kids and getting them through college. So we know if our parents didn't have some sort of long-term care insurance, we know that we want it. And I do see that a lot. So I will be sending this out to everybody just to give you some food for thought. And your next steps, here's Wendy's information and my information. I will share that also after the call. I work directly with Dina, so come through me, and then Dina and I will discuss your case. And at this point, I'm happy to take any Q&A if there is any. And maybe I'll start just with one additional question for Dina, which is talk a little bit about our LGBTQ community, because I know you and I are working on one case in particular, but share a little bit about how we can also get couple discounts in that community.
Absolutely. So there is a couples discount, which it's quite significant. And I laugh about that because I was talking to a single female yesterday, and she was so mad that, she's chosen to be single and she can't get this couples discount. And I just tried to explain to her that there is some statistic out there that says that couples go on claim less than single people, because I think what happens is one person will start taking care of the other person. But having said that, the domestic partners, if you are a couple and you are in a household together and sharing expenses, you can get a couple's discount. So that is great, and it's huge.
Excellent.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? I don't know if you guys can see the chat. Is there anything else that has come up?
I would love to talk about just the plan. Just get a plan, because the no plan causes stress. I was having this discussion last week about just a plan and having the discussion. And that's, I think, what the three of us want to do, is be a resource to have a plan.
Absolutely. And I will also add, I actually bought, my husband and I, long-term care insurance over a decade ago, because at that point they were giving great couples discounts, but it was a use it or lose it. So I paid for 10 years. I'm done paying, which I love. But I actually think at some point I may add another policy which will combine life with long-term care. So, my preference is to get clients earlier, certainly while they're working and can afford the premiums. But even if you are older and have, you feel like you've missed it, please reach out, because we do have a lot of options and the industry is always changing. So what was available 2 years ago is now a little bit different, different bells and whistles. So we're happy to run through any illustrations for you. Anything?
I'd also like to add that some of my clients that have some wealth are really looking for asset protection planning. And you brought this up earlier, Catherine, that if you, or maybe it was you, Dina, when you went over one of the slides of, not self-insuring, not using your own money, and that some people just will get that long-term care policy to protect their money, right? So I had a client that was, I think 75 years old. She had $2 million, and that statistically speaking, she thought she was going to live another 20 years. So she went ahead and purchased a policy that was locked in at least for 20 years, and that she thought, I'm going to use the policy proceeds if I go into a nursing home so that I can know that I'm going to be distributing my $2 million to my children. And so it also can really serve a purpose for securing a legacy. So if you're not even interested in, securing that money for yourself, but you want to secure it for a legacy, that getting a long-term care policy definitely has its place in estate planning.
Thank you. I love that. And then one more thought, Dina, I know you mentioned also something about, getting older and you want to go visit your parents and, have a cup of tea and watch Netflix.
Yes.
Talk a little bit more about that.
Well, and that's part of the plan, right? I loved your final slides too, to say, what do we want? I tell my kids that. I say, I don't want you bathing me and toileting me and transferring me, but I do want you to come over and I want you to hang out and watch Netflix together. And that is really a gift that you're giving to your children and your family. I work with an advisor who actually did a 10 pay. And when on that 10th premium that he paid up for him and his wife, he took the policy and wrapped it up and put it underneath the Christmas tree. And it was a gift to his children. And, I thought that was just awesome, because that's why we're doing this, right?
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I mean, I know with my daughters, I want them to care supervise instead of caregive. Same thing, right? Yep. I want that cup of tea and Netflix instead of the other stuff.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, very good. Thank you so much for attending. We will be sharing the replay. If you didn't get a chance to see it live, hopefully you're watching the replay. And as always, reach out to us if we can help with anything. So I am going to end the webinar, and I wish you guys all a great day.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye-bye.